Recorded live from the heart of the Bakken, it's the Williston Works Podcast.
Welcome to the Williston Works Podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. Williston Works brings you in-depth discussions with the entrepreneurs, small business owners, and investors who are getting it done in Western North Dakota. I'm your host, Sean Wenko, Executive Director of the Williston Economic Development Office, and today we're talking housing. And I couldn't be more thrilled to have the panel that we have here today. Our guests are Eric Peterson. He's with Proven Realty, brokered by EXP. Amanda Seiner, she's the realtor for Next Home Frederickson Real Estate, and Eli Black, president of Black Investments. It's great to have all three of you here on the show today. Let's jump right in. A little bit of background, Eric. With you, how'd you end up in Williston, and what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was a former financial advisor in Missoula, Montana. One of my really good friends started doing some trucking out here back in 2010, so we started a trucking company. Within about 6 months, we had about 15 trucks. So came out here, started doing some real estate and development in 2011, and haven't left since. I now own and operate Proven Realty, brokered by EXP, and there's 32 of us now, and it's been fun being here.
32, crazy. Amanda?
I'm born and raised in Williston, so that's been fun. My family's been here a long time, and I got into real estate in 2016, so I've seen the ups and downs. It's been really cool to have the same clients since I started and go off of that. I plan to stay here for as long as I can.
Eli Black, born and raised here like Amanda. It's the only place I've ever wanted to live. It's probably the only place I ever will live, and just started building houses a couple years ago, and I love it.
Excellent. Well, what we're talking today and getting into economic development, when we're trying to attract investment and development into the city of Williston, the two things that come up constantly for us, one is workforce, which we'll be talking about in one of our other podcasts, but the other one is housing. And housing is everything across the board. It's everything from commercial to retail opportunities to straight on to the single family or even the multifamily homes that are out there. But what the challenges seems to be faced is there just seems to be, is there inventory out there? Yeah, but there seems to be a lack of some of the inventory that's out there, of what we can offer to some of the opportunities that are trying to come into Williston. I could tell you, working with the Small Business Development Center and Keith Olson there, he probably has a half a dozen projects that are sitting on his desk of these small retail entities that are trying to find small space that just have had a challenge finding it and finding something that fits. There's multiple people that want to get into the single family home market. And again, that challenge is there's just not a lot of inventory that's out there that fits their demographic or niche of what they're looking for. And also, I would say, on the commercial side of things, I mean, yes, there's some shops and some inventory out there, but again, it's still a challenge to find the right inventory of what we need to attract some of the businesses that are looking or calling into our office. But, jumping into it, Eric, little background, what are you seeing with the state of housing that's out there?
Yeah, it gets tighter all the time. There's really very limited single family rentals right now. And so that's really caused a lot of problems for people just finding a place to live so they can work here. And then again, these entry level affordable houses are hard to find. Interest rates have gone up so far that just people are getting priced out of the market. They not only can't find what they're looking for, they cannot reach to that entry-level house. From a affordability standpoint, we pulled the numbers yesterday, and the average listing price is now $100,000 higher than it was a year ago. So that just tells you right now, and that doesn't include, that's the price you're going to pay, and that doesn't include exactly what your carrying costs are going to be through your interest rates. And so now people are going to be paying $500, $600, $700 more a month for the average starter home here. And that's really impacting who can afford to be here.
And Amanda, your clients, what are you seeing?
No inventory. We're about half of what we normally have, so that's been the toughest part. And the problem is with the rates being a little higher than normal. If they used to be at $400,000, they're at $350,000 now, which, running the numbers, we don't have much for between $275,000 and $375,000 is a very tough market. If you find a house you like, there's multiple offers on it, almost guaranteed. So that's been the hardest part.
How about yourself, Eli?
As a builder, I think the biggest thing is trying to find property. Property is the hardest that's my biggest hinge point is property. Number two, a labor force that you could actually get a price. I mean, as of right now, I got family in Bozeman. The framing labor is $4 a square foot higher than what it is here, or lower than here. I'm sorry. So we're paying more here than they are in Bozeman, and everybody knows what the market is in Bozeman. It's crazy. So trying to hit those $275,000 to $350,000 price marks for homes. As a builder, I mean, there's zero profit in it because our supply is so short. Our labor force is so few, but the costs are so high. So I would love to say, hey, we're going to build 10 more houses in that $350,000 range. I don't have the property, and I honestly do not have the affordability to even get to those points because of how expensive labor is.
Why aren't we seeing this flux of building that we should be if that demand is out there right now?
I would say the number one thing right now is just the labor. You're competing with the oil field. So a lot of these guys that normally in these smaller markets, I grew up in Missoula, a lot of handy laborers there on the construction side. Well, now you've got to pay them the same rate that they could have made in the oil field. So number one, labor costs are huge if you can find anybody. And then where are you going to put those workers? There's nowhere for them to live. So it's almost a double-edged sword between finding somebody that can live here and finding somebody that you can afford to pay.
I think bringing in new developments too is so expensive for a developer to come in and build a new spec development, right? Get these going. Costs millions and millions of dollars to do that. And that's a lot of people can't afford that.
You've got land value, but you also have got to put a lot of stuff underneath that ground to make a housing development happen. And that becomes a big challenge. We've seen that with economic development. Is you're right. This upfront cost is millions of dollars to put in the infrastructure to make the sites pad ready. And it's turned into this really a big debate of who should pay for it. Should it be a city of Williston to front load the costs? Should it be on the developer? And again, it's just kind of back and forth. You might have 50 people that say, it should be on City of Williston. You have 50 people say, no, it should be on the developer. So it's kind of this back and forth. I think that we haven't completely solved, that problem to get out from underneath that. Is this a nationwide problem, or is this isolated to Western North Dakota?
Isolated a little bit,
Yeah.
I feel like, just because we're not on the interstate, so it's hard to get things. Like he said, we're more expensive than Bozeman. That's crazy.
I travel all the time to go find different supplies, whether it's specialty lighting, whether it's stone, whether it's whatever it may be, that anything that's out of the ordinary rather than a 2x4 or 2x6, you got to travel to go get it. And you have to do it yourself because there's not a lot of people that are willing to bring it here. And if they do, the premium is way too high where you can't make it work. So usually every weekend we're going somewhere to grab some stuff.
What is the price point that you're calling affordable house? Because now I'll tell you, and I was born and raised here, but I moved away, came back, been back about 15 years, and I've watched that FHA limit just climb. Okay, and so now, and I think we high
487.
for first FHA limits. So again, what is affordable house? Because again, a 487 is a pretty good size payment. But is there a number out there?
365 is our average sales price right now, and I feel like that's on the higher end of we see the most between 275 and 375.
This is young families coming in, first-time home
first-time
buyers.
home buyers. I think that's more of the comfortable living from what I've seen.
Sure.
It depends on rates. Obviously, rates right now are really jumping them. Monthly payments, but
And this, when you're talking in that 365, this must be established homes already then that are hitting the market.
yes.
Okay.
I think it's really hard to build. It's very hard to build at 365.
How much does it play in the wants and needs of the consumer? And where I'm going from this, I chuckle because I have a conversation with my dad. And my dad talks about when he was a first-time home buyer, he didn't have a basement. The basement was unfinished. He didn't have an air conditioner. And I think obviously there's some things that, those things, there's not a lot of cost to just have those in there. But how does that play now with the costs of what we're seeing of what first-time home buyers want? Because it seems like they want a turnkey property that's fully landscaped and da-da-da. How much does that change this narrative out there, though? How much does that drive that cost up?
I'll say, landscaping, you're $15,000, $20,000 into a basic entry-level home landscaping package. That's just a generic, simple, what you see, some sprinklers, sod, a little bit of rock. That's just $20,000 that adds onto that, not including what the property cost, astronomical labor costs for electricians, plumbers, HVAC systems. I got some numbers this morning on some new HVAC systems that came in, and it's a lot higher than it used to be. So it's just so difficult to get into a 350 price range. But the consumer has a different mentality and they really want a lot. They want a lot for a little. And that's the hard part of saying, hey, I'm sorry, this is the new reality. This isn't an Eli Black pricing I'm giving you just to say, I'm trying to gouge you. This is just like bottom dollar. This is what it costs to do. Like, it's just, it's the new norm. And that's what I hate hearing. This is the new norm. $500,000 could be the new norm for an entry-level house, which is unbelievably mind-blowing. Crazy. I remember when I got married, I was like, Sarah, the only thing we can do is we have to be at 190,000. 200,000 is gonna bankrupt us. And that was 15 years ago. To see how much that's changed over the course of 15 years, unbelievable.
Yeah, our affordability on the first house I purchased was $105,000, and that almost bankrupted us as well. The other thing here is that people want a turnkey house, as Eli had mentioned, simply because they don't have time to fix it up or do the landscaping because they're out there working, and that's a dynamic that you don't see anywhere else. I also do a lot of travel into all these big real estate conferences around the country, and the rest of the country has slowed down considerably. We're one of the few bright spots that are here. I was just in Austin, Texas a month ago. They're down 30 to 40% in their average sale price. Houses are sitting on the market, and we're just lucky to be here with good wages, solid oil, a great place to live, and fantastic people, and people want to be part of this community.
Let's talk a little bit about the commercial side of things. We were talking single family, but again, that's another huge need that we're seeing. And on the small restaurant retail aspect, we have a lot of, again, I talk about small business development's got multiple business plans sitting on their desk of companies, not companies, but businesses that maybe are in that 2,200 to 2,400 square foot range. And the reality is there's some spaces out there, but again, there's not a plethora of them that they can choose from, or maybe don't have the location that they're looking for. How do we solve that problem?
That's going to be really hard. I'll look at the builder over here. It's going to be impossible to make something pencil based on the cost of the dirt, the infrastructure, all of the permits, going vertical, and then finding a place that's a standalone facility. There's just not enough out there. And then just the carrying costs on the loan, 30% down on a commercial loan and rates over 8%. So just right there on the financing side almost makes it impossible before you even get started to make it pencil.
And for location too, that's a big deal. If you're gonna invest, millions of dollars to make something suitable that you really want, to find a location that's gonna be suitable for you is very difficult. Just where we're at right now in Williston. The opportunity's there, but if you talk about a risk, that is a risk. Jumping in with both feet and fingers crossed, legs crossed, hoping for the best. Financially, it's hard to pencil out. It's hard to pencil out just because of the land cost alone, carrying costs, labor. It's a risk. The reward is definitely there if you're willing to wait for the long term, but it's tough. It's tough.
And also back to supplies, a commercial building like an industrial steel building takes 8 to 10 months now from the time that you order it to have it delivered here, and roughly $130 a foot for a shell just to go vertical. So there's still other properties that are here that are listed for less than that you can still find a good deal on. But we really, just like on the residential side, there's a game of musical chairs for commercial space. There really is.
So we've got a crystal ball. You'd made some comments, but what's gonna solve our problem? Is there a solution to it, or is it just something like you had said that, Eli, the new norm? How do we adapt to the new norm to spur more development? What do we do going forward from here?
I think on the residential side, I can only speak from the building side as a builder. If there was someone that was willing to put in the infrastructure, said streets, utilities, take that, roll with it, and have build-ready lots, I think you would see a lot more builders go after it. But right now, the idea of having to put all of my operating capital into a land project, not get anything out for, say, 2 years, is extremely hard to do, because that's your operating capital for 2 years. And now it's tied up, and you're hoping somebody's gonna come and help you buy some lots and build with you. So that's the biggest thing on my front is I've got some development opportunities, but to throw, a couple $1 million into it and not get anything back and have anything, come to fruition for 2 years is extremely difficult. And I think that's the biggest thing. If someone was willing to say, hey, here's a project. I'm gonna put everything in there. This is what the land cost is gonna be. It's gonna stay this way for the next 2 years, buy as many lots, build ready lots. That would definitely appeal to me, where I've got some other resources to bring in another group of framers, electricians and plumbers, then you could roll and do 10 to 20, 30 houses a year. But not having lots available, it just doesn't pencil out.
I'm kind of sensing what, you guys are saying though, as well as, you might see some of the public out there and say, well, assume the risk, you're going to get the reward. I don't think, in your comments, Eli, I don't think anybody's asking for anything free.
No.
What we're saying, what you're saying is it's a tremendous challenge because this amount of capital is tied up for this length of period. And there's not a lot of people out there with that deep pocket of capital that can just set that aside and sit on it for a couple of years. And that really seems to be where we're at with it. We've got to figure out how we address that situation. Well, final word, I'm going to give you each a chance to weigh in a bit about what we've talked about. But if you were to give some final advice to if there's entrepreneurs, investors out there, they're looking at getting into this market, there's home buyers out there trying to find the homes, where are we going from here? What are we going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
I would say we're going to be busier than ever from a long-term growth standpoint. I was just in Bismarck a couple weeks ago. They're building houses, but they can't sell them, so they're turning them into rentals. I would love to get people from all over the country, developers, builders, construction folks, to come here to help the cause.
You get them built in that price point that we've been talking about, they're going to sell. They're going to sell fast. So.
Let's bring the families in. We're such a good community with so much opportunity, and especially for young people. Come here, bring your family, and stay. And that's what I want.
Excellent.
I just think for the next couple of years, it's going to be a very steady but slow growth, which is, I think, what the community needs. And I'm excited for what the city is going to provide for builders such as myself. There's going to be some shovel-ready lots I'm really hoping for. And once that's there, the houses are going to build. The families are going to come and the houses are going to sell. And I think it's going to open up for some rentals as well. And then on the commercial side, you'll have more people moving in, willing to invest in Williston, because it is a phenomenal community. I appreciate what the city's offered my family. It's been a phenomenal place to raise my kids. And I'm excited about what the future holds because I know it's very bright.
Excellent. Well, Eric, Amanda, and Eli, I appreciate you guys being on the podcast. I got 3 experts right here that we're talking about housing. We're gonna get this solved eventually. It's gonna not be solved overnight, and it's gonna be a lot of discussion even beyond this podcast. But I appreciate your input today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Williston Works podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. Please like and subscribe for more interviews, and to learn more about Williston, North Dakota, visit cityofwilliston.com. And special thanks to The Range Sports Bar and Simulators for providing the location to record this episode. Visit therangend.com to learn more. We'll see you next time on the Williston Works podcast.